Another night of looting. And what's the media's priority?
He calls them thugs. Who is the thug here? Hiding in a bunker? Hiding behind a suit?
We are teetering on a dictatorship. Is the president declaring war on Americans? What is happening here?
The president had been saying incendiary things, certainly, if you've been listening with any kind of open-mindedness, certainly not helpful things.
He's all but calling on authorities to crack skulls at these protests. It's just not something that you normally see in the United States of America. It's something that you see in more authoritarian countries.
Amazing. Meanwhile, the New York Times headline reads, America's protests won't stop until police brutality does, meaning they hope this could go on forever. One of their scribes chides Mayor de Blasio for being too pro-police. Meanwhile, the city burns and stores are looted, cops are beaten, and people are beaten too. The New York media, by sticking to their narrative that we deserve the punishment, reject protecting our citizens. They mock the need for military intervention. People have families and relatives, and they have spouses who work at night. When our leaders believe this mayhem is inevitable and perhaps even necessary, then who protects us now? Still others blame Trump. Now, I watched the streets of my home destroyed. It wasn't Trump. It was criminals who knew that the light touch of impotent leaders allows for ruin. And how is it Trump's fault that a cop killed a defenseless man in a liberal town held by liberal politicians? It's not, but the media says the opposite. It's why when you say everyone's in agreement over Mr. Floyd, including Trump, they respond that that's not enough, which tells you, again, they want no end to the violence. They want to burn it all down. They being radicals on the street, in faculty lounges, and government. And the minority shopkeepers are paying the price. The minority owners of restaurants are paying the price. Minorities in general always pay the price. The only people who aren't paying any price are the media. They wax poetic and they rake it in. They hope if they feed the crocodile enough, as Churchill once said, it will eat them last. It will, and then it'll get food poisoning. So, Dana, I don't know where to start. I am so depressed. I honestly can't even focus anymore on this. They were throwing hammers at my residential windows because they can't steal anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And yet we have leaders who are more upset. We have the media is more upset about Trump's tweets than the fact that people are getting beaten. I don't get it.
Well, and I feel like the media is also, in many ways, reflecting the local and state officials in some places. So, for example, in New York, it is hard to imagine that they seem to be more concerned about the lawless and than for the people who actually obey the law, the taxpayers. Right? Think of all the people that work really hard. They try to do the right thing. That's the majority of people. That is the majority of people. Then they did the lockdown. They lost their businesses. They lost their livelihoods. They probably, many of them, lost their life savings, lost their hope, lost their dreams. And it is, I'm sorry that you're depressed, because it's hard for everybody who's a fan of yours, Greg, to see you like this. But we know that it is from the heart and that you are witnessing something that it feels like the city and the nation is fighting for its life. And we need help in order to win this fight. I believe that we will. I believe we'll come out stronger. I also, if I could just mention two things. One is this notion that the president was hiding in the bunker. I just want to be very clear. No president asks to go down to the bunker. That is a Secret Service decision. They come and they tell you, sir, you are going to the bunker. They actually had to carry Dick Cheney to the bunker because he didn't want to go after 9/11. I really hope that the media stops saying that the president was hiding. That wasn't his choice. The Secret Service is in charge of protecting the president. That's that choice. The other thing on the media that I just wanted to mention to you is this caught my eye today. So Michelle Goldberg is a columnist at the New York Times. I tend to read her because I get the perspective. And the headline is that she thinks de Blasio should resign. Very liberal, left-wing columnist. And I thought, wow, we're on the same page. And then I realized, oh, no, she wants him to resign because he's not progressive enough, because he is sided too often with the police. And if you saw on the Daily Briefing today, one of the police officers who went after Cuomo and de Blasio saying, You have no idea what it's like to be us. They do not feel supported by their local leadership, and I'll leave it there, but could go on and on.
Mm-hmm. You know, Juan, I know you were in D.C. I think you were in D.C. during 9/11, or maybe you were in New York. I was in New York. It seems like this is so much worse because it's dozens and dozens of cities, and it was us versus the terrorists. But now it's the terrorists are us, and we can't do anything because they've hijacked a movement, and the movement can't expel them. So that's why we're eating ourselves alive, and I think why the politicians are so flaccid on this.
That's an interesting perspective. Obviously, we lost a lot of lives in 9/11 so far. Thank God, in terms of the protest here, it's been nothing comparable. But I wanted to just join with you in saying I want to unequivocally condemn the violence. I just think it's counterproductive, even for those of us who are seeking some kind of positive social change in terms of reckoning and calling for accountability for police brutality in this country. Dr. King, so many others have spoken about how that kind of violence does exactly what you said, allows critics to hijack a virtuous movement and derail it because you can't build coalitions on that basis. Now, on the same time, Greg, I would say that I want to make sure that there are, just as I want penalties for people who break the law as protesters, I want there to be penalties for police who break the law in terms of their use of brutal tactics. I want to make sure that there are repercussions and equal treatment all around. Because to me, we have in this country systemic racism. And I know some people don't want to deal with it, don't want to acknowledge it. They want to just get back to normal and say, oh, how can we deal with that? How long will it take to correct? But we need to do it. I think we can both agree it's harder to be a black man in America than it is to be a white man in America. And we need to confront this because it's contrary to our ideals about equality.
It depends what black man you're talking about. But I agree that there is racism. The problem is if we all, and like you said, we all agree on it, it doesn't stop the violence. It's like we go, okay, what we want to help you. What can we do? And then the violence still occurs. So that's why I think that there's another aspect to this that is way bigger than race. It's something about undoing society. Jesse, what are your thoughts?
Well, just to Juan's point, one of the ways you can punish police, they have union rules. These are police unions. The unions have devised these systems so a police officer can have 30 complaints against him in a couple years, and he gets no discipline. So that's on something that the unions can figure out how to do. And on the point you just made about they can't expel these criminals and domestic terrorists from their movement, one way to do it is maybe take a breather on the protests. They had a week. It's been hijacked. No one's talking about George Floyd anymore. Everyone's talking about the reckless violence and property destruction. If you sit down, the rest of the looters and the criminals won't have you as the cover to perpetrate crimes against the country. That's just a suggestion. In terms of the media, I have never seen so many peaceful protesters commit so much violence, right? How many excuses does the media have to make for these acts of violence? I mean, this is like the guy who says, oh, well, my girlfriend only cheats on me when she's drunk. And he says that time and time and again. I mean, just break up with her. And the other point is this, Bill de Blasio, he could do something about this. Juan condemned it, so did de Blasio. De Blasio runs the police force. Tell the police, crack down, and then we can all have enough of it. Because I want you to be in a better mood, Greg.
It's hard. I was just going to ask Dagan if she's interested in buying an apartment. It's in a really quiet neighborhood now. What are your thoughts?
You know what? You're trying to be funny, and I love you. But you know what? There is no telling how much the price of that apartment is going to collapse with what has gone on in terms of the lockdown in the city. Half of the restaurants probably will never come back. the destruction of jobs in leisure and hospitality and retail, and then all of the violence and looting that has gone on, you're going to see unemployment here that could be an upward of 30% for a very long time. But one real quick thing in terms, I wanted to mention that Governor Cuomo could do something rather than laying the hammer down on de Blasio and the police force here in New York. And that's actually call out the National Guard troops with their 13,000 at his avail. Instead, he likes to talk and not act. Meanwhile, New York burns.